morning, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us. Donna, I see a lot of folks rolling in, and we are going to get started awfully quickly because Donna has a lot to talk about and has some fun news to share with us at the end. So Donna, I see people, wow, big crowd today. I see lots of people rolling in. How are you doing, Donna? How's your weather?
Not horrible. It's a little gray,
Okay.
but yeah.
Okay.
I
So
came
for
into
those of
this year
you,
vowing that I would not whine about the weather. So if I have one,
ah,
it was like extreme. Like we've seen the 30s. So, I'm sorry.
for
Rules are
those
meant
of
to
you
be
in
broken.
Minnesota, that's -20 for us Floridians. Just and one of my favorite parts about winter is Donna and her being on a call with somebody from Canada, someone from Minnesota, and her saying it's 41 degrees here. It brings me much joy. Anyway, Donna, it looks like the rolling ins have settled down. So let us get started. I think you probably need no introduction, but the curriculum development manager here at ITSM Academy, who we have celebrated our 21st anniversary. Go team. And Donna is about to celebrate her 19th anniversary as a full-time employee. And fun fact, she was a contract trainer for us prior to her. So anyway, Donna, with no further ado, we are ready for your wisdom.
Right on. So hi everybody, happy new year and welcome. I don't know how many years I've been doing this, but to my kind of annual ITSM and State of the Industry report. If you're new to ITSM Academy, we are a full service provider of IT service management, education, and advice. So you can see we love to talk about things like ITIL and DevOps and process design improvement and lean. And you're going to see all of those influences coming into play in my presentation today. A little bit about me over there on the right-hand side. And I always kind of simplify it all by just saying I'm a lifelong learner and I love learning about kind of especially frameworks and ways of working. And so it's always a pleasure for me to work on this presentation because basically it's a big research exercise, which makes my little heart happy. So here we go. So I always kind of start off by talking about the current landscape, and I look into CEO and CIO priorities, and you can see them here. And as always, every year there's going to be parallels, as there should be. Notice AI up at the top of the list, and that's going to be a running theme throughout my presentation this year. But especially on the right-hand side, you can see that that adoption of AI has some real downstream implications. Organizations are really looking to transform their business processes, and they have to think long and hard about their supply chains. Things like sustainability and ESG start to come into play. Notice again, big parallels, operational efficiency, cost optimization. We're just in one of those periods of time where how do we strike this balance between the tight belting that's normal when we're in kind of volatile times as we are right now, and yet how do we then spark innovation and spark transformation. And the word transformation, it might feel a little dated because we've been talking about digital transformation for a lot of years. But if you actually look at the word transformation, it's really, a major change, and a big part of transformation is you're never the same again. And I don't think we're there yet. So even if we talk about digital transformation, there are organizations that, we saw this flurry of digital transformation coming out of the pandemic. But in a lot of organizations, or in some organizations, they've kind of slipped back to doing things the way they've always done them. So we didn't necessarily change and progress forward. Having said that, for a lot of organizations, absolutely, that's been the case. And now they're on to the next generation of transformation that's being driven by AI. Sustainability is real and it's important. And we'll talk about that again as we go along. So what do we know heading into 2025? We know that AI initiatives are going to shift from experimentation to expectations of ROI. I want to emphasize there's not a or in there. So it's not experimentation or ROI, it's an and. We know that today, everything we do is one big experiment. Technology is constantly evolving, and we have to learn how to effectively experiment and learn and grow along with it. Having said that, leaders have gotten impatient. They want to see some real ROI on their investments in AI. And there, the focus is very much on business outcomes, customer outcomes. Are we clear about why we're doing this? We also know that operating models are going to evolve. For some organizations, we're starting to see dual operating models where they have a part of the business that's focused on their legacy products and services, and they're kind of, very often they're what is the core business. But they also have a part of the organization that's focused on innovation and new products and services, and how those two parts of the organization work and how we manage the portfolios in those parts of the organization, what frameworks we adopt in those parts of the organization can really vary significantly. So we need to be aware of that. Also, certainly, we're seeing organizations reorganize in order to take advantage of some of the movements we're going to talk about today, and things like product-oriented teams and cross-functional teams. Job roles are emerging, evolving, and declining, right? My good friend Mike Cardinal, I didn't notice if he's out there, and I published a blog called Putting AI in Its Place. And we talked about it in the context of industrial revolutions. And in that blog, Mike said, there's always winners and there's always losers. So are there going to be jobs that get obsoleted with AI? Absolutely. Having said that, we know, and industrial revolutions teach us this, that new jobs will emerge. We might not know what those jobs are going to be yet, but they will emerge. But in the interim, jobs today, as we speak, are evolving, and there's a big opportunity for individuals to understand, right, how to either evolve their own role or survive in the event that their job gets evolved in a way that doesn't match their skill set. Technology is certainly expected to be a key driver of all of this: competitive advantage, sustainability, human-centric business practices, right? We live in a digital world. And then certainly the IT talent shortage is real. And one of the things that makes me really sad about this is that 2024 was such a difficult year. It was one of those years where we saw massive layoffs. I can't tell you how many people I talked to who have gone months trying to find a new job. And so you hear about this IT talent shortage and you say, how is that possible, right? There's lots of people out of work, and there's lots of people who are waiting long periods of time to find jobs. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. So AI is, again, a big part of what we talk about, and organizations really are recognizing that Gen AI, as an example, but we're going to talk a lot about other forms of AI, is really going to significantly change how they do business in the coming years. So let's talk about this IT skills gap just a little bit more. As I mentioned, it's real. And again, how is this possible, right? That we have people out of work, but it has to do with mismatch of skill sets, right? So you can see Robert Half, 51% of hiring managers are finding that they're not finding the skill sets that they need. And the impact is real, right? You can see product release timelines, customer satisfaction, revenue goals are all being affected. Organizations are having to abandon projects. And so it's something that we really have to, figure out how to tackle going forward. You see the statistic down at the bottom. In the next 10 years, intelligent automation could free up 30% of IT workers' time, changing the skills that are in demand. And, it's interesting. When I first saw that, I thought 30%. Okay, so first of all, let's be clear. Like, we're not talking whole entire jobs are being wiped out. 30% is a nice little chunk of time. But it's not like your whole entire job necessarily has been eliminated. The question now becomes, what do we do with that time, right? How do we claim the benefits of that freed up time? We are educators. And so, of course, we believe that part of the answer is looking at the education that we provide and enabling people to get education on their own, right? If they feel that they need it in order to advance their careers. So you can see the in-demand tech skills on the right-hand side. They shouldn't surprise you. I very much want to call out, last on the list, task and workflow automation. It's really quite interesting. The reality is that if you introduce AI into a workflow, and therefore it either eliminates the need for a chunk of work, or it can handle on its own a chunk of work, you've just changed that process, or you should change the nature of that process, especially in terms of how the human beings that are performing that process interact with that process. And so there's a real tremendous rise in the need for process design and improvement and process optimization skills, framework skills that enable people to really not only understand why, how they work is changing, but influence that, right? Participate in that process design and improvement effort. And if you go back to lean principles, one of the things that lean really promotes is that on a daily basis, we are all looking at how we can improve our work. So how can we as professionals respond to this? And how can we improve our employability? We're really seeing this rise of hybrid roles. And what this, if you actually look at these different roles, and I'm not going to read through them all, but what you see here is a combination of technical skills and then some type of business related skill or some type of framework or process related skill, some type of what we would historically call power skills or human skills. And if you really look at the people that have been widely successful in this world, the Steve Jobs, the Bill Gates, right? Very often they weren't the best technician, right? They were good. They had good technical skills. They had incredible understanding of the capability of technology, but they had some complementary skill that really enabled them to excel. So Steve Jobs, for example, is always famous for the fact that he loved design and he was passionate, right, about the artistic, the aesthetic of how we bring technology into the world. And those of us who love our Apple devices reap the benefits of that today. I'm going to overlay this by saying, a lot of these skills are skills that we can acquire on our own, and lifelong learning is so critical today. And that's something Bill Gates was famous for. He's famous for, being a prolific reader, and he's famous for, and I remember reading a funny article about Bill Gates one time where he took like a physics textbook on vacation with him, right? That was Bill Gates, right? So think about what you do and think about how you can add in complementary skills to, again, just make yourself more valuable to your organization, make yourself more employable going into the future. So let's talk about ITSM. And I introduced this notion last year. We see here the definition of service management from ITIL 4, right? Those specialized organizational capabilities that we have for enabling value for customers in the form of services. You know, would we like to drop the IT off the front of it? Yeah. But the reality is almost all services today are IT enabled. So that's the world we live in. I live in the real world. Let's accept it. So I want to lead with ITSM and AI. And, you know, there's lots of AI use cases for IT service management. I did a whole other presentation about this. Let's be clear, AI has been around for a very, very long time. It's not in any way, shape, or form new. And some forms of AI have been available to ITSM practitioners for a long time: predictive analytics, AI ops, AI-powered knowledge management, right? For a very, very long time. For example, if you're sitting at the service desk, a tool can, you know, based on some criteria that you've entered into an incident record, suggest to you what knowledge articles might be appropriate. With generative AI, we're seeing now this expand, because in the case of knowledge management, as only an example, generative AI can now help to formulate those knowledge articles and vet those knowledge articles and improve them, and even obsolete them where needed. Robotic process automation, natural language processing, super critical in the customer experience space, right? Because now we can do sentiment analysis. Now we don't have to rely on these surveys that have these really, you know, kind of specific questions that we ask so that we can produce nice little charts. We can ask, you know, open-ended questions. We can use feedback that's provided via emails, and we can analyze all of that. And then coming into 2025, the hot trend is, of course, agentic AI. So agentic AI, and I had to laugh because I was watching a Forrester presentation recently, and the Forrester person said, we don't yet have a clear definition for agentic AI. And I'm an educator. I read college textbooks like this, like I'm incapable of like not having a definition of something or trying to formulate a definition of something. So will this definition change as agentic AI evolves? Probably, but for now, right? Agentic AI systems have agency. In other words, they can make decisions, they can take actions, they can solve problems, and they can do it with minimal human intervention. Now, there's all kinds of implications here, right? What models are they using? How have they been trained? Have they been given policies and guidelines, guardrails to work within? We have to be thinking about those things going forward. But the cool thing is they're very goal-oriented. They can learn based on new information. So the features are autonomy, adaptability, and goal orientation. So if you look over on the right-hand side, believe me, all of the IT service management tool vendors have been hard at work trying to figure this out, and they're all in a race in order to introduce as much AI as possible into their products and really try to look at how we can leverage the capability of the products. So let me do a quick poll. I'm going to do a quick poll, and then I'll talk a little bit more about this. Sorry. Here we go. All right. So this poll question really speaks to how are you leveraging AI capabilities in your tools? So hopefully by now you've started introducing some basic capabilities. You're starting to use machine learning. Maybe you're using predictive analytics in order to do some reporting and analysis. Again, maybe you're trying to use AI-driven knowledge management, right? So that you can, start to integrate, right, your incident, your service request management, your monitoring and event management, your AI ops type systems with the knowledge management systems that you have in place in your organization. This is one of those things where, and we've talked about this for years, those organizations that are kind of keeping up with their vendors, in other words, as your vendors introduce new releases, you make every effort in order to leverage that new release. Those organizations are the ones that are reaping the benefits today. If you have not, if you have highly customized your product so it makes it difficult for you to upgrade your product, or if you're simply behind in releases for your product, then you're probably not leveraging the significant investment that these tool providers have made in order to introduce these capabilities into the tools. So let's see how we're doing. And what we were asking here is just, are you using it effectively? Like, you're really trying to max out the AI capabilities that are provided in your tool, all the way down to, I don't even know if my tool has AI capabilities, or we're not at all leveraging those capabilities within our organization. So I'm going to give it just 20 more seconds, and then I'm going to move on. I'm not seeing any, oh, there you go. As soon as I said I'm not seeing any movement, here we go. All right, going once, going twice. Here we go. All right, so, zero, right? Feel like you're using it extremely effectively or even very effectively, right? So there's work to be done in this area. There's opportunity to be found in this area. Some of you somewhat effectively, some of you minimally effectively. So this is, I'm an educator, so I'll give you a little homework assignment. Go back and figure out what AI capabilities your tool does have, and figure out, start thinking about the business case around how you leverage that. Remember, always, you don't do it for the sake of doing it. What problems do you have? What problems do you need to solve? And how can potentially AI help you with that? So, whoops, agentic AI, we're again in the very, very early days, but it's one of those things that's going to come on fast. And, like, even on a personal level, it's one of those things where I want it, and I want it now, because who wouldn't like to have a bunch of little kind of bots that can be out there helping you to get things done more effectively? So what are the skills related to agentic AI? And this laundry list of skills is going to look super overwhelming. So let's not even pretend that there's a single human being that's going to have all of these skills, right? It's a combination of skills: AI expertise, software development skills, domain-specific knowledge like IT service management or DevOps that really enable us to kind of leverage these systems effectively. So again, let's think about this notion of complementary skills. What skills do you have now? What skills can you potentially enhance or add in order to improve your capability? And if nothing else, go make friends, right? Despite my love of Deming, right, and his, focus on statistical quality control and data analysis, I'm terrible at that kind of stuff. That's why I have my cardinal in my life, right? So go make friends with people who have the skills that you don't, and either work on developing those skills, or if nothing else, collaborate on projects. So today, and these are kind of common roles, right, that we're seeing in IT today. Many of these roles you may fill as we speak, right? So today, right, in our existing roles, we are in a position to add in those complementary skills. So how do you do that? You choose a focus area. You build your core technical skills, right? You develop, right, that basic AI literacy, or you develop, basic software development skills, right? Whatever is the area that you need to focus on, gain domain knowledge. So let's make sure we understand these frameworks like Agile and Lean and DevOps and all these ways of working that are in flight in our organizations today. And then work with other people on small or stretch projects. Go pursue certifications, right? It's something that we want to be thinking about doing on an ongoing, continuous basis. Before we move off AI, the last thing I want to do is talk about AI adoption patterns and how to avoid the pitfalls. And I did a whole entire presentation on this, but I kind of want to sum up a couple of key points. And they are that common AI adoption patterns are to do task level automation, right? We automate stuff we do on a day-to-day basis, but that doesn't necessarily move the dial in terms of overall process improvement or overall value stream improvement. That's something we evolved to, that idea of process level automation, where we're starting now to look at end-to-end processes and end-to-end value streams. It's in that more holistic approach. It's in that taking the broader perspective that, again, we're really going to reap the benefits in terms of improved lead time, in terms of improved cycle time within our organizations. So task level automation is good. We get it, right? It's actually it's the cherry picking approach to life, right? It's the start with the quick wins approach to life. But really what we now want to be thinking about is that, end-to-end perspective, and really be thinking about resource management, right? Where really can we free up people's time so that they have more time to devote to the value adding time that's been identified as part of, for example, our value stream mapping initiatives. How can we improve communication and customer and employee and experience? And those things that really, from a human perspective, should be the benefits we reap from all of this technology. So let's talk about ITSM and Agile. And there's very much a back to basics approach going on here, where, for a long time, organizations were very kind of rigorous in their approach to Scrum or SAFe or whatever one methodology was introduced in that organization. There's an old Spotify mantra, we'd rather be agile than do agile. So this idea of moving away from doing agile to simply being agile. We see more hybrid roles. So, gone are the days where maybe you had a Scrum master who really did nothing but coaching and education and training within their organizations. They have technical skills, and that Scrum Master role comes out when it's needed. Conversely, we have leaders who are developing a strong understanding of Agile and can be taking on that coaching role. Certainly cross-functional team structures. There's been a strong movement in recent years to product-oriented teams, true cross-functional teams. Leaner practices, and Agile, always remember that its roots are in lean. So moving to, chunking work up into smaller pieces, taking an iterative approach to work. We know definitively that taking that approach will reduce lead times, enable faster feedback. There's tremendous benefits. And then adaptations to support remote and hybrid work. So kind of a move away from traditional ceremonies. Remember, once upon a time, when we all came to the office, we'd have a morning stand up and we'd all get together and we'd look at the Kanban on the whiteboard. we can't do that in a virtual world, right? So much more asynchronous and synchronous activities where maybe instead of doing a daily huddle, we simply have people chatting in, right, to our Slack channel or Teams channel, the information that we would have normally provided in that stand-up. And then we maybe occasionally get together to talk it through. Also, more emphasis on things like living documents and having people collaborating in terms of working on documentation, which historically has been like, kind of something that the technical folks have really tried to, steer away from. Like, we don't need no stinking documentation. But the reality is, what do you think all this AI is running off of? So we have to get serious about documentation and knowledge management just enough, right? That's agile, but we still need to be thinking about it. Last year, on the right-hand side, I spent a lot of time talking about this 17th annual State of Agile. They didn't produce an 18th annual State of Agile that I could find anyway. And so if you kind of want to hear me talk about these numbers, you can go back and listen to last year's State of the Industry report. So again, back to basics, which means we're really trying hard not to emphasize one way of doing things. So this notion of hybrid agile is really on the rise. And you see this spectrum where we go from predictive, which is, we could maybe say is traditional waterfall, through a hybrid approach where we're kind of pulling all of the bits and pieces, the best practices from the various agile methodologies, Scrum, SAFe, extreme programming. We're kind of selecting the bits and pieces that are most valuable to our organization and introducing a hybrid approach. And then we see traditional agile, again, Scrum, SAFe, et cetera, right? Where we're kind of following, right, the guidance that's provided in those bodies of knowledge. This hybrid approach you can see on the right-hand side is really on the rise, right? And it's interesting because there have been some studies that have come out talking about agile, like the reduction of agile. And really how that's now being interpreted is it's not that the use of agile is going down in organizations. It's that the use of things like Scrum and SAFe are going down in organizations because we're looking at this more hybrid approach, right? So AI and Agile comes into play in a myriad of ways you can see on the right-hand side. And you can see that the numbers are relatively high in terms of leaders feeling that AI is going to have an impact on their projects, whether it be, slight impact up to moderate impact. But if nothing else, we see that there's a real clear understanding that there are a myriad of ways that we can leverage AI along with our agile practices. One of the things you often hear talked about with AI, and I like this image because I think it does a really good, oops, sorry about that. There we go. I like this image from PMI because I think it really does a good job. The context is is project management, but this notion of automating work, having AI assist us with our work and then augment our work is really valuable. And you can kind of apply this to anything you do, even in the context of IT service management. So this is actually something that you can be talking about in your organizations. What are, in fact, those things where we can safely let machines do it for us? Just let them do it. Full disclosure, we were playing around this morning with our polling questions, and I just let ChatGPT create some of our polling questions. And for the most part, we let it roll, right? It's like it did a great job. Probably assisting. We tweaked things a little bit, but not a lot. And then you see augmentation. And the critical thing about augmentation, and this is a key takeaway, is that humans are still essential, right? So decision making, critical thinking, right? it's very, very important that we continue to be skeptical about the information that AI is providing to us and how we use that in order to make decisions, particularly strategic business decisions. So let's talk about ITSM and DevOps. So Dora has been around for, I think it's 10 years old now. It focuses on how DevOps, and in 2024, they very much focused the Accelerate State of DevOps report on AI and its influence in all of this. But they focus on things like organizational performance and team performance and, happily, employee well-being, right? So they really look to things like software delivery, operational performance, especially in the context of reliability and user centricity. So I think it's really like, if you think about the spirit of DevOps, it's not, just dev. The operational performance, the ops part of it, is really critical. And then let's always remember why we're doing this, right? And that is for our users and for our customers. So it's really when we're able to combine software delivery performance and operational performance that we're going to be able to reap the benefits in terms of organizational performance. So Dora every year publishes these 4 key metrics: deployment frequency, lead time for changes, failed deployment recovery time, and change failure rate. Now, a point about failed deployment recovery time. Historically, this has been MTTR. But there's so much confusion around MTTR. What does it mean? Mean time to repair, mean time to recover, mean time to restore, right? You all get it. That in this year's, in the 2023 Accelerate State of DevOps report, which is the most current one, we saw this shift to failed deployment recovery time. So this is where we see, depending on how long organizations have been at all of this, how long they've had Agile, how long they've had DevOps, and let's call that continuous practices, continuous delivery, continuous deployment, right? Continuous testing, all the continuouses. Depending on how long they've been at it and how mature their greater enterprise is in these areas, we see tremendous, right, variation in terms of how frequently they are deploying, and how effectively they're able to ensure the stability of their environments. I think that change failure rate statistic is always interesting. I could not find an explanation for why high was higher than medium, and I will continue to investigate that. If anybody has an explanation, please feel free to reach out to me. But even if we look at the ends of the spectrum, look at that difference between a 5% change failure rate and a 40% change failure rate on the other end of the spectrum. So one of the interesting things that they looked at in the 2023 report was, all right, what's the effect of AI on DevOps? And what's interesting here is, it's helping us to improve flow. It's helping us to, and that's kind of, we'll talk about that in the context of value streams, job satisfaction, productivity. Yes, it's helpful. But notice that what it's not helping to do is improve the time that we're spending on valuable work. And you can see over on the right-hand side that one of the reasons is because we're not focusing on toil. And toil is a term that kind of emerged from the SRE movement that talks about that kind of manual, repeatable, really, annoying work, those things we have to do on a day-to-day basis that we're doing manually rather than having them be automated. Very often these forms of toils translate into things like technical debt in our organizations. So, and we know this happens, right? Organizations, and hate to be critical of leadership, but sometimes it is, in fact, leadership doesn't want to prioritize paying down that technical debt. doesn't want to prioritize paying down that toil. They want to focus on just getting the next new feature out. And I get that, and I understand that that's essential from a business perspective. But the reality is that if we spent some time, right, reducing that toil, we would free up more time to work on what's valuable. And what's valuable can be either what's valuable to our customers and to our organization, or it can simply be what's more fun, right, for the people doing work, and what's more meaningful, because people today want to feel like they're contributing. They want to feel like that the work that they do really has value to their organization. And that's where our sense of satisfaction comes from, right? When we get to do something where we go, yeah, okay, we helped improve the bottom line of our company. There's an intrinsic value in that. So that notion of valuable work can kind of float both ways. So there's all kinds of discussion about AI generated code. And, I'm sure there's a blog out there that says developers or, being a developer is an obsolete role. Here's the reality. Can AI generate code? Yes, it can. Do we trust it? This is another one of those slides where I think it's a really good case study in how we should all be thinking about AI, right? Some people trust it infinitely. They will accept anything AI tells them. On the other end, there's people who are like, I don't believe a word it says. And AI is a human being in my mind. I do, in fact, say please and thank you to ChatGPT. But look at that big bar in the middle, somewhat. We should all have healthy skepticism. We should all be applying critical thinking to the information that's provided to us by AI. And so I kind of love that representation here. And again, it has a specific context here, but I think that context is applicable to everything we're talking about. I think it's important to understand also from a sustainability standpoint, which is something that I'm super passionate about on a personal level. I personally live in the state of Florida, which is the most beautiful state in the world. And, I don't even have to talk to you about last year's hurricane season, I don't think. There's real environmental impact here, right? The amount of compute power that's needed in order to fuel, right, all of this AI and to train all of these models, significant impact. You can see on the right-hand side on the environment. And so here's where sustainability is increasingly a big priority for organizations. The other thing on the left-hand side is notice that, yeah, AI is helping us be productive, but it's not necessarily helping us to improve product quality, right? So there's something that we're talking about today, and that is the incident management paradox. The promise of DevOps, the promise of Agile, right, was that we would prevent incidents from occurring, right, early in the life cycle, all of our shift left strategies. But the reality is that's not happening, right? We're seeing 66%, right, according to the State of DevOps Automation and AI, are seeing an increase in the frequency of incidents that affect customers, which means that they snuck through, right, all of the protections that we put in place before we get into production. And even though 62% of organizations have a defined incident management process, they're still seeing an increase in the amount of time that it takes to resolve incidents. So we really have a ways to go in terms of kind of dealing with incident management and kind of really fully understanding that it's things like the lack of collaboration and communication, disparate tools, manual communications and manual activities. All those things are still standing in the way of effective incident management. So how do we rise to that challenge? We have to think about automation. And this is here's where we're really seeing SRE increase in terms of adoption. We're seeing platform engineering start to increase in adoption in order to kind of have a more stable platform upon which all of our Agile and DevOps practices can perform. So strong movement in these areas. So I've kind of said this for a lot of years now. If you're looking for an area to get into, things like SRE and platform engineering are certainly areas that are high on the top of hiring managers' lists. We can't help but bring in DevSecOps. We know that 96% of organizations believe their organizations would benefit from DevSecOps. Traditional DevOps practices are letting people release code more quickly, but it's creating vulnerabilities as a result of it. So it's really critical that we embed security into that development lifecycle. The points made here that adoption is high in industries such as finance, healthcare, and technology, where security and compliance are critical. But I have to say, we've seen a real increase in government agencies, for example, who are attending our or running our DevSecOps classes. So it's very, very much a strong trend. We also have to think about, and this goes back to the 17th annual State of Agile report, where they talk about the relationship between Agile and DevOps. End-to-end visibility and that ability to have greater end-to-end visibility will really help. And that's where value stream management comes into our storyline. So what value stream management challenges us to do is organize for flow. And when you organize for flow, you really rethink the relationships in your organization. Here's where we start to really, truly break down silos. Here's where those true cross-functional teams start to come into play. And in the 2023 State of Value Stream Management, they talk about the fact that we're seeing more and more where our teams are connected or aligned with value streams, particularly in elite and high-performing organizations. And that's really enabling these organizations to, for example, reduce lead time, because we reap all the benefits of eliminating the handoffs and the wait times that occur as we move through those silos. So I'm gonna let y'all hold me to this. One of my 2024 goals was to acquire my value stream management certification with the VSM consortium. I didn't get to it, honestly. I will get to it this year. So look for me to report back. I'll post my cert on LinkedIn when I get it, but I will get it this year. My aim is first quarter, so you can hold me to it. Come back and talk to me about it if I don't have it by the end of the year. The other thing, and I talked about this a little bit last year, one of the things I love about the value stream management movement is this real focus on, customer value realization. It's something we talk a lot about in IT service management and something we've emphasized through the years, but we're still not really great at it, right? So my hope, and I talked a lot about this last year, is that with value stream management, we really learn to understand how to measure value from our customers' perspective, not just the business outcomes, like we've increased our revenue and we've, added users to our subscription service. Not to say that those things aren't important, but they still don't quite get to, do our end customers really value what we're doing? So increasingly, we're seeing organizations create these value hypotheses so that we can then determine, right, are our customers in fact realizing value? Some of them are at the macro level with things like epics in Agile. Some of them have, and increasingly in high-performing organizations, they relate to user stories, because it's in those user stories that we can start to get real-time feedback on whether or not satisfying that user story did in fact enable our customers to realize value. So tremendous amount of progress, promise in this area. Last but not least, let me talk about IT service management and ITIL as a specific framework. So one of the cool things that came out, it actually came out of some research that was done 22, 23. It was published in 2024, is that PeopleCert has introduced these business drivers, and you can see the business drivers on the left-hand side, which really provides you a way to now start to be able to measure, are you in fact reaping the benefits of introducing Agile in your organization? And on the right-hand side, you see the results of the study that they did. And those are some big numbers there, right? Organizations that have adopted ITIL truly are reaping benefits like continuous business operations, and they're able to move more quickly to improve service quality experience. I'm not going to read through them all, but you see that they really span they relate not only to our products and services and the quality of those products and services, but to our relationships, like our partner and supplier relationships, and then to our employee experience in terms of our ability to attract and retain talent within IT organizations. So I'm super excited that PeopleCert has introduced this. I mean, for a long time now, we've all been wanting to be able to talk about and really quantify, right, the benefits of introducing ITIL and have ways in which to measure ITIL. And we see that here. I meant to go back and get it, and I forgot. David Cannon from PeopleCert actually came last year and did a presentation about this. And in that presentation, Dave talks a little bit about some of the specific ITIL practices that underpin some of these business drivers. So if you don't have the report, we're happy to kind of facilitate you getting that, unlocking the power of ITIL. And our hope is that PeopleCert will continue to kind of monitor those drivers going forward. So what are some key takeaways? I've already thrown this out there. Humans are still essential. We're not going away anytime soon. Critical thinking, decision-making, overseeing the training and validation of everything that's coming out of AI is such an important role that we have to play going forward. We have to be tremendous skeptics. Doesn't mean you don't trust anything, doesn't mean you trust everything. We really have to be playing an active role with how we oversee AI. And so let me do one more kind of quick poll question. And let's talk about AI in your organization, right? Do you have AI governance in place, right? Are you within your organizations ensuring that we're really thinking carefully about how we're introducing AI in our organization, and we get it, we embrace it, we encourage it. Having said that, right, we're putting in place the guardrails that we need in order to be effective. So I love, right, that right out of the gate, a lot of you came out saying, yeah, we've got some good, strong governance. If nothing else, a lot of you have some governance, right? Even if it's moderate or minimal. We've got that governance in place to really help us, right, in order to kind of wade safely into this new world. Doesn't surprise me, though, to see some folks saying, we're just not allowed to use it, right? There's policies in place where we don't use it. And the reality is you've likely got some shadow AI going on, right? It's being used. It's just not necessarily being used out in the open, right? And that probably is, in fact, creating vulnerability for your organization. Who knows what, of your corporate secrets are being thrown into, ChatGPT on people's personal computers as an example. So one more second, and then we'll go ahead and end the poll. Going once, going twice. And here you go. So again, exciting that we see 21% of you, right, have good, strong governance frameworks in place, right? 31% of you have moderate, and another 30% minimal governance, right? So we have to, and it's awesome that organizations are out there thinking about putting this governance in place. So best practices absolutely can help, but let's remember they provide guidance, they provide principles, right? Principles-based thinking is so essential to today's environments where we need to be flexible and we need to be agile. So remember always that all of these frameworks we're talking about, Agile, DevOps, Lean, ITIL, have to be adapted to meet your organization's circumstances, needs, and goals. And y'all have heard me say it before. I love ITIL 4, and one of the things I love most about it, and I think probably the coolest thing that came out of it, were the 7 guiding principles. So if you're not familiar with those guiding principles, please go on a little hunt for where you can get more information.
Sure, they don't have to go far, because
Okay.
February's webinar is Rose Gibson, ITIL Master, and she is talking about guiding principles with real examples.
There you go. Right on.
Come February 20th, y'all. But you'll be getting an invite soon. Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's okay. So last but not least, again, we've talked about this need for complementary skills, right? And really looking at where your opportunities are, over and above just those technical skills. All the different frameworks that we've been talking about today, right? Having an understanding of these ways of working and how they are benefiting organizations is critical. And education and training play a critical role, especially in the context of lifelong learning. So individuals who really have, as part of their kind of way of living their lives, that they focus on lifelong learning, really can today have a competitive edge, whether they're taking formal training classes or they're simply, running a lot of YouTube videos or Udemy courses, right? And really also recognizing that we can, in fact, learn from our elders, right? I have to say, in all honesty, I adore this image simply because I'm a left-handed person, and I love that this little girl has pencils in both her left and right hand. As a child, they tried to make me right-handed, and they constantly took that pencil out of my left hand. So I adore this, not only because we're seeing multiple generations working together, but go girl. So you as an individual can focus on education and training, and then organizations really do also need to be thinking about, right, having an upskilling program and having that culture of continuous learning that encourages people to figure out, right, how to develop those hybrid skills that are needed to be successful today. And that means we have to give people time. We have to allocate some budget. We have to make it a priority. And it's something that doesn't always happen, unfortunately. We know we provide framework-related education. Very often organizations devote a tremendous amount of time and effort and budget dollars on the technical stuff and kind of don't necessarily invest in the framework skills. And always it should be an and not a or. So, as always, I came up against the window, and I apologize for that. Lisa, are there any questions? Did anybody have any questions for me as I was going along?
So many comments and compliments, but no actual questions yet. But Donna and I can both hang out for a little bit longer. I wish y'all really understood how funny it is that we went right up to time, because we were determined this year not to do it, but here we
I
are.
know.
Anyway, we can
I
stay. If you've got
really,
questions, we're happy to. You had a lot to share, Donna. I mean, you gave us 3 hours worth of punch. So that's how I feel.
um, the other thing I wanted to kind of talk about is that we really coming into this year are going to and we already out of the gate we're already onboarding some great new classes. We recently, like literally this week, we're finishing onboarding IT asset management. PeopleCert is updating the entire DevOps Institute portfolio, DevOps Foundation, SRE Foundation, DevSecOps Foundation, and Practitioner, right? All of the DUI portfolio is being refreshed this year, and we're going to be onboarding a lot of that. And I just want to say also that I personally have been working on a second edition to the ITSM Process Design Guide, which is the kind of underpinning body of knowledge for the CPDE certification. Yep, thank you. That it wasn't rolling, and thank you for taking it out from under me. And in March of this year, I'm going to launch a new release of CPDE that kind of reflects a lot of the research that I've been doing over the last couple of years, and that I've been kind of alluding to in some of my presentations recently. So kind of look for that coming soon.
I have to jump in and say, for those of you that don't know, CPDE is Certified Process Design Engineer. And the hashtag for that class, there are two. Hashtag Lisa's favorite class, hashtag Donna said Deming. That's where the industry-wide coffee drinking game came from. It is truly my favorite class in our portfolio. And because we are celebrating our 21st year, we're doing something we've never done before. The March class that Donna's teaching, we're doing $500 off. And it's on sale on the website. You don't even need a promo code or anything. And we never sell in our webinars, but getting people into CPD is not selling. It is doing you a favor, because what you're going to learn in this class is so important, and you're not getting it anywhere else. So if you have process design that you're thinking of redoing that needs to be redone, this is the way you do it. All right, done. But Donna's teaching it, and it's the new version to the new book. So we couldn't be more excited.
Yeah. So I'm trying to look at the chat while you're talking, Lisa. And again, I don't see any specific questions. If you do have any questions or thoughts, please reach out to me. I really, again, I always look forward to this presentation because, like I said, it's a big research exercise. And I could spend, ridiculous amounts of time doing research, and I always run out of time. Because Nina wants the webinar deck so that you can put it up on the website. So if anybody thinks I missed something big, please let me know. I'd love to hear about that.
Okay. If anyone thinks you missed something big, not only let Donna know, but offer to co-present on it any month, but February or March. We're always looking for practitioner speakers. Y'all, a lot of you come pretty regularly. You've heard me say this before. But it's the webinar that people want the most, our practitioner webinars. And y'all are the practitioners. Everyone's got a story, and Donna or I would be very happy to help you craft and finalize something that you then could submit for conferences and present in other places. So think of us as a resource.
And I think that the thing, and people kind of don't always like to come and present this kind of stuff, but what kind of experiments are you running? People always, I have to say personally, when I attend a conference, anybody that has lessons learned as part of what they're covered, right, Lisa? I'm in. Here's what worked and here's what didn't work, right? We always love hearing that. And so don't be shy, right, about being willing to share that stuff. And I understand some of you've got corporate stuff that you have to take into consideration, but like Lisa said, everybody loves hearing that from the practitioners and really understanding, right, how they got where they got.
Yeah, I agree. The that we failed, but we failed quickly, or we learned to fail quickly, are some of the best. Here's what we did. Here's why we failed. Here's how we fixed it. Here's how we move forward. I think I love to hear those stories because it helps us. So, any others? I'm going to do one more shout out, but nope.
I'm not seeing
There's
any
not.
questions.
Donna, I love this one. Thank you very much. And I am very, very excited about, let's just say I'll be spending a little bit of time in my favorite class in March, because I'm really excited to see the modernization of the book.
Yep.
So,
Thanks all. Happy New Year. Have a great year. Don't blink. It'll be over before we know it, but for now, Happy New Year.